Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Neighbors turn their house into a very loud public church service every Sunday, and their son is a creep. After that, am I the jerk for ransacking my boyfriend's apartment after he stole my passport to prevent me from going on my trip? And after that, using my parking space without my permission? All good, you will be using it forever. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to have a loud church service in her backyard. You won't stop me from praising Reddit boy. I dare you to try. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Neighbors turn their house into a very loud public church service every Sunday, and their son is a creep. So we just had new neighbors move into the house next to ours, and they've been extremely annoying. Firstly, they convert their front garage and driveway into a church every Sunday. They line up chairs and invite people over and preach loudly on a podium. It literally lasts all day with catering in the works. When they're not doing this, they're loudly practicing their preach sermons in the garage throughout the week. Look, I have no issues with religious folk in general, but it's just so loud and annoying, to be honest. Like, can't they just go to a normal church instead of converting their house into one? Is this even legal to do so? Why subject your neighbors to this? Second, the family has a son, probably in his 20s, who harasses both me, female 25, and my older sister. He stares at us very creepily and stops us literally every time he sees us outside. He asks us really weird questions, trying to hit on us, I guess. He once chased my car as I was pulling out of the driveway to ask me what day it was. Recently, as I pulled up into the driveway, he stood behind my car on my property, staring at me and literally waiting for me to get out so he could speak to me. I was stuck in my car for literally 5 to 10 minutes to wait for him to leave, and he waited the whole time. I just got out, made eye contact with him while ignoring what he said, and stormed inside. Like, it's really getting in the way of my life. Now, I usually run from my car to my front door and the other way around so as to not be spoken to or stared at creepily. What really set me off recently was that I caught him staring at me through my window from a distance. Now I have to keep my curtains and blinds closed permanently, which is not the greatest thing for my mental health. This entire situation is making my anxiety spike so high, I really shouldn't feel unsafe in my own property. Other than all of this, there haven't been any other confrontations or issues with the family in general. It seems like they're really extroverted and have made attempts to get to know us, but I'm afraid if I accuse their son of this stuff, they'll deny it since they're children of God, or whatever religious folks say, or retaliate. I've daydreamed of blasting music from my car during their sermon, but I don't want to start drama. Any thoughts or advice? Set up cameras to catch anything just in case. They're fairly cheap, and you should document the creepiness in case it's needed for later. Call the city or the cops about the Sunday thing. I'm sure they are not zoned for church services, so it is a legitimate complaint. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you call the cops or try to get them to stop, or not? Please let us know. I'd go out there and mow my lawn while blaring some Cannibal Corpse. You be inconsiderate of me? Two can play that game, boyo. Am I the jerk for ransacking my boyfriend's apartment after he stole my passport to prevent me from going on my trip? I, female 25, have been with my boyfriend Jake, male 34, for 8 months. Things were fine until I, against my better judgment, moved into his place a couple of months ago. Since then, he's been getting kind of possessive and protective. I immediately told him to cut that crap out because it's off-putting and things seem to get better. Anyway, I have a friend in Mexico who's getting married. I've been excited to fly down for her wedding since she told me she was engaged a year ago. However, Jake has made it clear that he doesn't want me to go. He says it's too dangerous, even though I've been there many times and I even lived there for a year. I speak Spanish, I have friends there, and I know my way around. No matter what I say, he doesn't want me to go. Then a couple of days ago, my passport went missing from my nightstand. I'm supposed to go tomorrow, so I wouldn't have time to get a new one. I looked everywhere, no luck. When I asked Jake about it, he behaved a little suspiciously, but I dismissed it because I couldn't believe he would actually take my passport to keep me from going. But he's been giving me some red flags, so I decided to have a thorough look around. When he went out this morning, I started going through everything. As I searched, I became increasingly certain that he took my passport. I started off carefully picking through drawers and cabinets, but as my anger grew, I became a lot less careful. I started turning out drawers, pried open a briefcase, Made a total mess, but I found it. It was behind some books on the bookcases in his study. I never go into his study. He definitely put it there. Now he's furious with me for going through his things and ransacking his place. He said he would have given my passport back and there was no need for me to go crazy. I'm just angry that he took it to begin with, and I don't believe him when he says he was going to give it back. This is only my third serious relationship, and I have no perspective on this kind of thing. Am I the jerk for overreacting and ransacking my ex-boyfriend's place? Edit. Thanks for the replies. I guess I was still in a weird state of disbelief that he did that, and it made me question everything. Now that I've stopped shaking and have had time to think, talk to my mom, and to read through these replies, I feel kinda silly for even wondering if I did something wrong. Suffice it to say, it's over for good. I've blocked him on everything, and my dad and brother are over there getting what's left of my stuff. I'm going to try to put it out of my mind and focus on my awesome trip. Not the jerk. Move out immediately and don't look back. This is the start of a horrible relationship. He's starting lightly so that you get used to it. That you even question that you're a jerk for looking for your passport that he stole means that he's already succeeding. For your future safety, run. You are not in so deep that you can't get out. OP, thank you. I'm at my parents' house now, and my dad told me the exact same thing. It's good to hear it from other people. Can we get a standing ovation for Dad here? Gold star for being in your corner and protecting you. I know a lot of young people who wouldn't have been able to rely on their parents for help in this or a similar situation. Big Reddit love, Dad. Not the jerk. This is the beginning of a true crime podcast that's gonna freak me out for weeks. OP, my dad is awesome. Using my parking space without my permission? All good. You will be using it forever. So I'm living in Japan now, and here people ride bicycles a lot. You can't leave your bike anywhere and you have to pay for parking, between $1 and $2 per day. There are very few free parking areas for bicycles. Most people leave their bikes at the same place, so they pay monthly because it's cheaper and you have your own space. This started a couple of weeks ago. Someone in my building started having a guest who decided to steal my bicycle parking space whenever they came to visit. Sometimes they stayed the whole night, so I had to go to the station, pay $1, and come all the way home walking, which meant I would need to walk to the station the next day, getting up earlier, walking like 20 minutes to the station while carrying my heavy bag. All the bicycle spaces have a number, which means they are reserved for someone. Mine is 105, but this jerk decided to take mine whenever they came to visit. The second time this happened, I told the building manager, but they didn't do anything. The third time I saw the bicycle there, it was the same red expensive bicycle. I left a note in Japanese saying, "Please don't leave your bicycle here. This is my space and I'm using it every day." I found the note taped, with the tape I used to tape it on their bike, to my parking space, and it had some mean words in Japanese at the end. Basically, he was not only stealing my space, but making fun of me by insulting me. Fine. It's just fine. I probably wouldn't have done anything about it if he hadn't written those words. This triggered me and got the worst in me. This person did it again a couple of times, so I knew this would continue. I was thinking about buying another bicycle, a better, more expensive one I could use to go on cycling trips, so a good chain/lock was needed anyway. I bought one of the thickest they had at the store and decided to try its efficiency. I locked his bicycle next time I saw it there. It hasn't moved for the last 7 days. There were 2 notes. The first one was an aggressive note, with more mean words and threats about going to the police, which I don't care. Let's go that way, buddy. Second note, days later, was an apology, and they begged for me to unlock the bike because they tried to break it, but they couldn't. I guess he has learned his lesson. I'm pretty sure he won't do it again, but I just want to enjoy this feeling of victory a couple of more days. I will free it in 2 to 3 days, I guess. Tell him he also needs to pay your parking fee for the month before you'll unlock it. He was using up your space, so he should also pay for it. OP. Oh, that's good. Didn't think about that. Am I the jerk for refusing to get on a flight? My boyfriend's parents paid for them, my boyfriend's siblings, and their significant others to all go on a flight to Cabo for spring break. Becky, his mom, hasn't seemed to like me for some reason. She always makes snide remarks about my parents' blue-collar jobs and my field being nursing. We get to the airport, and Becky got 7 other people's first-class tickets and me 1 coach ticket. She told me I was used to it, and she had a free coach ticket, so I should be grateful for going. They all did their express check-ins and left me in the long line for me to think about what the heck was going on. I had to keep from crying the whole time in line. I got up to the counter and there was a baggage fee for me. My boyfriend at the time never once helped me through the coach line or said anything to his mom. I looked over at his mom's smug face as I was about to pay the check bag fee, and I let out all of my frustrations on the attendant and started crying. Basically, she said, "Don't go with that family, sweetie. They don't appreciate you." I continued to cry and took my luggage and got out of the line with a super sweet check-in woman. I was so upset on how I was being treated, and I started crying at my boyfriend at the airport about how his mother was treating me. I broke up with him at the airport, and his mother was so embarrassed. I told her what a jerk she was. My boyfriend has been blowing up my phone, saying how could I do that to his mother and just back out of a vacation very last minute and wasted everyone's time and money. Not the jerk. The check-in lady was correct. If you would have gotten on that flight, you would have been treated like this for the entire vacation. It was absolutely the right decision to stand up for yourself. As for wasting money, she said the ticket was free, and I'm sure she didn't spend much on your hotel accommodations. As far as wasting time, you wasted enough of your own time on a relationship with your boyfriend if he isn't going to stand up for you. They're going to say that you should be happy for any kind of vacation and not look down on a coach ticket, but his mother was being pointedly rude to you. I love this reply, and I'm glad OP didn't put up with it. Life's much too short to associate with people who want to treat you like crap and pretend you like it. Was the boyfriend actually planning on sitting in first class and leaving OP alone in coach? What a useless jerk. Oh, and then the biggest concern, with his girlfriend in tears, is his poor mom being embarrassed. I'm at a loss for words to describe this waste of oxygen. This is the reason it sucks to be in a relationship with people raised by narcissists. If they haven't realized how much their parents suck, they will just act like flying monkeys and gaslight you. They have no idea what reality is. They only know the worldview of their narcissistic parents. I served a table where the wife tried to talk down on me, but her husband was on my side. It was a couple and their teenage daughter. At first, the table seemed very rude. Right off the bat, the wife was trying to treat me like crap and asking ridiculous questions, but gotta give everyone good service. So they ordered appetizers right away, but needed some time to figure out entrees. I kept checking back and even dropped their apps, and they still hadn't decided. Okay, fine. I let them take their time, checked back to fill drinks, and they were finally ready after they finished their apps. They ordered ribs, a whole sunfish, and a beef short rib. Entrees came out, and I checked to see if everything is fine and that it tasted good. Everyone said yes, and just as I'm about to leave, the wife says, "When I ordered the fish, I wasn't expecting it to be a whole fish. If it's going to be a whole fish, you should advertise it and tell us." And here we go, with customers trying to be smarter than the server and telling the server the menu didn't say that. So I told her, "We do advertise it as a whole fish. On the menu, it clearly states the dish is a crispy whole sunfish." The wife starts to say something back, but her husband quickly shuts it down and said, "It's fine. You're not the one eating it. I am, because I ordered it." He turns to me and says, "It's fine. I wanted this, and it tastes amazing." At this point, his wife was looking very upset because she just failed at trying to be mean to her server. The rest of the dinner, the husband was extra nice to me and shut down anything else from his wife if she tried to treat me like crap. When I came to pre-bus their table, he told me he knew it was going to be a whole fish. He had just expected the fish to be lying flat on the plate, but he was still impressed with how amazing it looked. At our restaurant, the fish is presented standing up, but it's part of the experience of getting that fish. The man ended up tipping me 25%, and as they were leaving, I overheard him being annoyed with his wife and how she acted. It's an amazing feeling when someone at the table won't let their friends or family be mean to their server and shuts them down for it. Doesn't happen often. Am I the jerk for choosing to house one son and kicking out the other after finding out what he did to his brother? What's going on right now has been really difficult on everyone. My son Jack, 26 male, just left his wife of 3 years after finding out that she's been having an affair. He didn't want me to know the details at all, just insisted only me and him spend time together somewhere in public. I thought it was because he just didn't want anyone to know what was going on, but it was really because my other son, Andrew, 27 male, was living with me and he didn't want to see him. Jack told me he's been running out of money and can't afford the motel he's staying at right now, but he refused to come back to live with me while he goes through the divorce. He finally told me Andrew is the one his wife cheated with. To say I was disgusted and horrified is an understatement. That night, I gave Andrew a piece of my mind and told him he's no longer welcome in my home. The reason he was living with me was also because of his financial problems since he was out of work due to lockdown. This entire time, he knew what was going on, but acted like the innocent party until I confronted him. He pleaded with me not to throw him out when he has no place to go to, but I told him as of right now, I only have one kid because we sure as heck didn't raise our kids to betray their own family and involve themselves in someone else's marriage. Since he's been living with me a while, he was given a time frame to pack up his things and leave. Once he was out, Jack came to stay with me, but haven't heard the end of it from my ex-in-laws or his mom, who conveniently cannot house him either, for one thing because they're back in their home country and they're yelling at me for playing favorites with my kids and punishing Andrew when he was already in a rough spot. They believe, as their father, I should have mediated between them so they could learn to live together. But I wasn't about to put Jack through that. He wants nothing to do with Andrew, and I feel like I need to respect that, not make them hug it out and make up. I'm also just very angry at Andrew, and frankly, don't want to be around him at all either. Yes, right now he's stuck crashing at different friends' houses. He keeps begging to come back because everything has been hard. Does it make me a jerk to not help him out? Not the jerk. Andrew can go live with his brother's ex-wife since he wants to be with her so bad. I'd never want to put my kid in a situation like that either. I respect you for thinking of your son's feelings. A betrayal like that, and I'd never want to look at that jerk again. It's one thing to be cheated on, but cheated on with your own brother had to suck. And for him to knowingly and willingly hook up with his brother's wife? Nope. I personally wouldn't claim him either. Not the jerk. OP. My kids have done many things in the past that have really upset me beyond belief. However, this was the first time in my life I was truly unable to look at one after finding out what he had done. I just couldn't do it. It didn't feel fair to Jack for me to try pushing him to make amends with the last person he wants to see right now. He cries himself to sleep every night, and during the day, he's just so detached from everything. It's hard to see your son hurting that way and not to be angry at the one responsible for it, his ex and brother. Am I the jerk for being angry with my fiance over the prank he pulled? I, 28 female, and my fiance, 28 male, have been together for 8 years. We met during college and are both really excited for the future. He has a twin brother that lives overseas. They look exactly very closely alike. It's hard to tell the difference at times. I've met his brother a few times over the years. He hasn't been able to visit due to lockdown. My family was having a large reunion this past weekend. My fiance complained about the reunion and told me he could not attend. I told him that it would mean a lot to me and he could meet more of my relatives. The day of the reunion, he tells me that he will meet me there. I get to the reunion and I see him sitting in his car. He was wearing a baseball hat and seemed in a good mood. While we were chatting with family members, my aunt asked him what he did for a living and he answered. I started to see something off, but kept my mouth shut. When I got home, I saw my fiance sitting on the couch playing a video game. I asked if he had a good time at the reunion and he told me he did. I then asked for him to tell me what my cousin's name was. He thought about it for a long minute and then started laughing. He told me that his twin brother attended the reunion and he was dropped off by a friend. I was so angry with him that I asked him to leave so I could think everything through. He went to stay with a friend and I'm still so devastated that he would pull this kind of prank on me. My parents are very upset with him and are being very supportive. He thinks I'm being dramatic and there was no harm in what he did. Am I the jerk for being angry with my fiance over the prank he pulled? Not the jerk. That wasn't a prank, but a horrible stunt attempt for him to avoid a family reunion. I would evaluate this relationship and ask if pulling that prank was really worth upsetting his future in-laws, not to mention how the extended family will feel if they find out this stunt. Yeah, not the jerk. It's honestly really weird though. It's like they watched way too many kids shows where the twins swap places and thought it would still be hilarious even though they're grown men. Not the jerk. And remember this rule. A prank is only funny if both people are left laughing. Just because he thinks it's harmless doesn't mean that you do. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her fiance? Please let us know. This is why you never try to reenact a 90s sitcom in real life. Am I the jerk for not letting my niece be the flower girl and instead having my cat be the flower boy? My husband, 35 male, and I, 29 female, are getting married in May. It's important to note that him and my in-laws are incredibly wealthy and practically throw money around like it's nothing. They paid for our wedding in full. My sister, 34, female, and I were always close, but once I started dating my fiance, she started distancing herself from me, and when I confronted her about it, she claimed that she felt like I was becoming snobby and rude with my new lifestyle, and that it would be best for her mental health if we went low contact. We haven't talked that much for the past 3 years because of this, and I respect her choice. Last December, at my family reunion, I announced my engagement, and everyone congratulated me except for my sister. I didn't think much of it, but it still hurt a lot. 2 months ago, I invited my parents to see the wedding venue, and this is when I brought up the idea of making my cat the flower boy. Everyone who was there at the time, my husband, in-laws, and parents, all thought it was a great and cute idea. So I bought a white dress for him, and we've been practicing his walk down the aisle since then. No one else knew about this, but about 2 weeks ago, my sister called me out of the blue to discuss my wedding with me. This was extremely weird, but I thought this was a chance for us to get close again. Once she brought up the flower boy, or flower girl though, I knew where the conversation was going. She has 3 kids, who are 8, 6, and 3. She brought up the idea of the oldest being the flower girl, and I told her what my plan was and that it was set in stone that my cat would be the flower boy. She sounded shocked and asked why I didn't think of my niece, and I just told her that she didn't cross my mind when thinking about it. She went off on this whole tangent about how I was a terrible sister, daughter, and aunt, then hung up on me. A while later, I started getting phone calls from my family about how selfish I was being and that I was making a dumb choice. She made a Facebook post about the phone call. I called her back the next day to confront her about it, and she said that the money really got to my head if I thought of a stupid cat instead of my own niece, and I told her that once she had her own wedding, she could make her own daughter the flower girl. This hit a nerve for her, as she had kids out of wedlock and has been struggling financially for a long time, so a wedding for her is unattainable. I also uninvited her to my wedding, and since then, lots of family members have come to basically shame me for my decision to make my cat the flower boy instead of my niece, and that I should re-invite my sister as she's been depressed ever since I uninvited her. This whole ordeal has really taken a toll on me, and even my parents called to say that I should have just changed my plans or had a small ceremony afterwards where my cat was the flower boy, but left the main event with my niece as the flower girl. So, am I the jerk for making my cat the flower boy? Let me get this straight. She goes low contact, but demands privileges as she wishes? Not the jerk. Not the jerk. You're living my dream. I wanted my old man, 18-year-old black cat we rescued when he was a tiny kitten, to be in a carrier so he would be part of the wedding in some way. They passed before I was able to do so. Please do this. It's going to be an amazing memory for you to always have. Whoever's throwing a fit over this doesn't deserve to be at your wedding, to pet your cat, or eat your food. I'd start snipping the list. Get your kitty some amazing cat trees, tons of treats, catnip galore with the money you end up saving. OP. He's also pretty old. Adopted him from a shelter he had been at for a few years, since most people want kittens instead of older cats. But he's the sweetest boy and loves being around people. Rest in peace to your cat. You sound like a great owner. Karen cousin tried to steal my boyfriend. I, 18, male, have been with my boyfriend, 18, male, and we've been together since May of 2019. Last year, when everything started to shut down, my parents offered to let my cousin, Amy, 18, female, stay with us as she is immunocompromised, and her parents are both doctors, where mine are both able to work from home. Everything was fine for a while. We mostly kept to ourselves, did our schoolwork, and spent time online with our friends. A few weeks in, I was sat in the kitchen on FaceTime with my boyfriend. Usually I would have done this in my room, but my dad's office is next to my room, and he was on an important work call. She came in to get something and must have glanced over my shoulder and seen him. When I had ended the call, she asked who he was. I told her he was my boyfriend, and she just made the comment that he was cute. At the time, it didn't seem like it was going to be a big deal. But after that, whenever I tried to have a call with my friends or my boyfriend, she would come into my room. She tried to play it off as wanting to ask me a question, but it was happening too often, and she would keep asking, "Don't I get to say hi?" which I found odd. We go to different schools, and she had never met my friends or shown any interest in them before this point. And if my phone rang while we were in the same room, she would always ask if it was the cute boyfriend, and she started making comments about how she wished she had met him first. I asked her to stop as it was making me feel uncomfortable. It got worse. She found him on Facebook and started sending flirty messages to him. He blocked her, and she made a second account and continued until he blocked her again. She then got into my phone and found his number and started texting and calling him. She would leave voicemails, and it was always about how good she would be as his girlfriend and how he should leave me for her and everything she would do for him. He blocked her number. I told my parents what she was doing and showed them the proof, and they told her that she had to leave because she was making me so uncomfortable. I've not spoken to her since. My extended family are now trying to make plans for this summer, hoping everyone can get together. I'm refusing to go to anything she's at because I feel she would just try again. Everyone except my parents are telling me that I'm ruining the plans just to be spiteful, as she has apologized. A non-sincere apology when she realized my parents were serious about her going back home. I feel like a jerk because it means we can't have any family plans, and I'm essentially making everyone choose between us. But I don't want to be around her if she's going to keep making me uncomfortable. You want the police involved? Okie dokie. So, the day after Christmas, about 10 years ago, my brother called me up and asked me for some assistance setting up some of his new computer equipment. He lived down the road from a store that specialized in discount china, so naturally it was extremely busy. Busy as in cars were parked everywhere, including on the grass in front of the store, and it was impossible to see around the corner if someone wanted to pull out of the furthest exit. Unfortunately, the speed limit, 50 miles per hour, is also extremely high on the road as well, even if you have to really try to accelerate to get to 50 miles per hour by the time you pass the store. So I decided to play it safe and was doing roughly half the speed limit, perhaps 30 miles per hour, while going around the corner of the store. Even at this speed, of course, some guy decided to pull out without checking, and I couldn't stop in time to avoid hitting him. Now, I was driving an older Mitsubishi that already had some damage, and he had a small dent in his fender. And come on, it's still Christmas, right? So I get out of the car, take a look at the damage, and turn around to see a furious, older, red-faced gentleman in front of me. Right after I tell him that it doesn't really look like much damage, so there's no need to contact the police, he proceeds to scream in my face about how I was speeding and this is all my fault. Oh, no, honey. A young woman driving by herself may appear to be easily intimidated, but I was trying to be nice. If you want the police involved, let's do it, buddy. I called the non-emergency line, explained there was a very minor car accident and that the other driver was insisting that it was my fault, so I would feel better if the police were involved. The dispatcher got my information, stopped for a moment, and then quietly thanked me for calling the appropriate number. 911 was hardly necessary, and then told me that she also felt it would be safer for me if the police were dispatched. After a 30-minute wait, an officer showed up to the scene. I, not being a total moron, sat quietly in my car and waited for him to come over to me. The other driver felt it was necessary to leap out of his vehicle and run over to the officer and start screaming and gesturing wildly. I didn't catch what was said, but I did see the look on the cop's face, and I was getting more and more amused. After being clearly told to get back into his car, the cop came over to me and asked me what happened. I told him what was going on, and that not only had I not deliberately sped up to go the speed limit, I had actually slowed down because of how busy the business was. He nodded and went back to measure the skid marks on the road and confirmed he believed I was actually doing about 25 and complimented my thinking on safe driving in this specific situation. He then proceeded to write the other driver a ticket, and the other driver pulled out of the parking lot a second time with his window down, giving me the bird. At this point, the cop came over to me, explained that he wrote it up as the other driver's fault for more than $1,000 due to the damage on his fender. He also stated that, "Darling, I don't do this often, but I believe you should take that man's insurance company for every dime you can get. Thanks for insisting we call the police." Make me hourly instead of salary because you're afraid I'll stop selling after I hit my commission cap? Okay. Years ago, I was an inside sales rep for a simultaneously large and tiny company in a niche market. The quotes are because it was at least equally outside sales. I just didn't go outside except to smoke. I've since quit. They had about 50 branches across the country of various sizes. The smallest was literally one guy who processed local orders and used hotshots for delivery. The largest had about 50 employees. I made 6 for my branch. I was literally the first salesman with a background in anything resembling sales that my branch had ever hired. They had always hired the least socially awkward industry professionals they could prior to me, and they had had their CSR doing the selling for over a year until I came on, so expectations were high. When they hired me, we had somewhat heated negotiations over the comp plan. It was a $42,000 base salary plus commission with a $56,000 OTE and $65,000 cap. I asked what I was meant to do after I hit the cap, to which they replied, "Continue to do your job," as if I wasn't going to have a problem with generating new business for free. I said that I was going to need a bonus structure beyond the cap if they wanted me to do any more hunting after that point. I made it clear that I'd service my accounts when they called, but I wanted to be clear that they were going to be disappointed if they expected me to make outbound calls looking for new business after I had maxed my comp plan, and that I'd definitely enjoy the extra time at home with my family over the holidays. They said they understood, and we went through the onboarding. I worked almost exactly 40 hours for almost 2 months, early October to early December, before I had jury duty and missed a day. My check was about $150 light compared to what it had been, so I complained to payroll. Benefits kicked in at 90 days. That's when I found out I was making $21 an hour and was not, in fact, pulling a salary. Presumably, this was to force me into the office, as we didn't have remote access to the local network that logged our hours, just the ordering/inventory software. I didn't even get a prorated Christmas bonus because that counts as benefits, and you have to work 90 days to receive those. Cue malicious compliance. I discovered that if I left the house 30 minutes early, my 80-minute commute would take less than 25. So instead of showing up around 8:30 and chilling in my car for a bit, so I was working at 9, I was there at 7 with the warehouse guy sending emails. I started working through lunch as I ate at my desk, as opposed to burning an hour off campus or in the break room. I didn't even realize I was losing an hour a day to lunch. I also discovered that if I stayed till 6:30, I'd get home by 7, as opposed to leaving a little after 5 and getting home around 6:30. So I spent an extra 5 hours a week away from home and worked an extra 22 compared to the 35 I was getting paid for before I figured it out. With the overtime, I was clocking north of $2,000 more than intended every month. And oddly enough, no one even noticed until the internal auditor verified W-2s and noticed that I made significantly more than the branch manager. I didn't hit my commission cap until late November, so I spent the rest of the year training with the tech and/or the warehouse guy. Both of them smoked. They tried to put me on the same salaried comp plan I had originally agreed to, but it was enough of a pay cut to qualify for constructive dismissal, so I got to quit and still collect unemployment for a month before I found another gig. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.